I watched a team demo their agent to the leadership. It was impressive. The agent parsed the natural language query. It called three APIs in sequence, synthesized the result, and returned the perfect answer. 200 millisecond, guys, and it was flawless execution. Now, they shipped this 3 days later. Within 6 hours, it was producing garbage, not occasionally, but 40% of the request. The demo scenarios still worked perfectly, but production traffic broke it in the ways that team never anticipated. The gap between works in the demo and fails in the production is not about testing. It's about five specific architectural assumptions that hold in the controlled environment and how it actually collapses under the production load. See, every team, whenever they are working, they know that this gap exists. They will say things like, oh, I'm going to need a better testing, or we should have a staged rollout. Well, that's not wrong, but it's not precise enough to be actionable. Now, the failure modes that I'm talking about are basically technical and specific ones, and they map to the architectural layers: the input layer, the error boundary, the state layer, the integration contract, and the performance envelope. Each layer has an assumption that works in demo and fails in production. And what's make this hard in demo is not lying. The system genuinely works under the demo condition. The problem is that the demo condition are a measure zero subset of the production condition, and most teams, they don't instrument the difference until these kind of first incidents. Now, this is the very simple architecture that the team has built. We'll have a user input. This will flow to the use input layer. The LLM will parse it. Then it will route to the respective tool. We'll have a synthesizer, and the output will be generated. So in the demo, they have made use of curated inputs. And here they have also had the scenario of reliable tools, and there was no state. But in the production, it's an entire different ball game. In the demo that I've just mentioned, the agent handled the queries like what were the Q3 sales in the Midwest region. So it's a clean, structured, unambiguous. But in the production, the queries were like, how would we do? How did we do in the last quarter, like compared to what we had in the previous year? And there were typos, there were ambiguity, and there were incomplete context. The LLMs try to parse it. Sometimes it hallucinated. Sometimes it hallucinated the output structure that wasn't there. Sometimes it asked the clarifying questions that actually confuse the user itself. And sometimes it just picked the wrong interpretation and called the wrong API. So one of the architectural assumption was the input is well formed and unambiguous. And that holds when you write the test cases. It doesn't hold when the real users are actually working and using your application. Let's say whenever they are using in mobile, and if the autocorrect is active, or let's assume that they are referring the context from 3 messages ago, in such scenario, the agent do not have such capability, maybe to have the remembrance over the context, it's gonna fail. So in these scenarios, what exactly that we have to remember is to fix all these things. It's not a prompt engineering. It's in the input validation as a first class architecture layer. You need to have a contract. Before the LLM sees the input, we should be having the another component that classifies the intent confidence. If the confidence is below a certain threshold, then you have to route it to the different handler, maybe the clarification flow. maybe a fallback to search, or maybe a human in the loop. The point is, you don't let the low quality input propagate downstream and provide the garbage output. And most teams add this after the first week of production complaints. The ones who ship successfully, they actually build it upfront. Now let's take a look into the failure mode number two, that is missing the error boundaries. So the demo has no error paths. In the case of demo, there's no error path because nothing errors out. But in the case of production environment, there will be errors everywhere. The LLM systems would fail in the ways that don't throw the exception itself. The model will return the response, but it's a malformed JSON. Or if it's a valid JSON, if it has got a field and that field doesn't match the schema that you are expecting. Or in some cases, it might hallucinate a tool name that doesn't exist. Or it calls a real tool with the parameters that violate the API contract. Now, in the demo, the agent has called, let's say, three API, but in production, one of those APIs started returning a 503 error due to the downstream dependency. Now, the agent that you have written has no retry logic. So it returned the partial result. Now, as a result of this, your users saw the half answer and assumed that the system was actually broken. So the key thing right here is the architecture assumption was the external dependencies are reliable. The LLM outputs are always well formed, but in reality, nothing would be true. The APIs will fail, the models can hallucinate, and the JSON parsers can choke on the malformed strings. So the fix over here is defining the error boundaries at each and every integration point. So when you call a tool, you have to wrap it in a try catch that doesn't just log the error, but it also decides what it has to do next. Do you have to retry with back off? Or do you want to fail gracefully and tell the user? Or if it is a fallback, then route to a fallback. The decision logic over here, it's not something which is a straightforward, it's something which is system specific and the use case specific. But this boundary that I'm talking about, it's not optional. And the same goes for the LLM as well. You need the schema validation before you trust the response. If the model returns a malformed JSON, you don't crash the entire application. You either retry with correct prompt or you fall back to a safer generation path. The teams who ship successfully treat LLM and tool calls as the untrusted operation. The ones that fail, they are the ones that thinks that, okay, it's going to fail. They are the ones who are going to treat them and ensure that the overall execution will be a reliable one. Then failure mode number three, that is unmonitored state drift. So in the demo environment, it is stateless, but in the production, it accumulates state and drift. The agent system, what happens over here is it often maintains the conversation history. It maintains the conversation history. In some cases, it will also remember the session context. In most of the scenarios that I've seen, in demo, there will be just one query and you'll get one response. That's it, done. But in production, the users will have multi-turn conversation. The context window will actually gets filled up faster. Then the agent starts referencing the state from 10 messages ago, or maybe there can be a scenario where the user switches the context or switches the topic in the mid conversation and the agent doesn't realize it. Now we had a production agent that cached the retrieved documents per session so that we can save on the embedding cost. Now it actually worked great in the demo, but in production, the cache grew unbounded. Now after 50 queries, the session was actually carrying 200 MB of cache data. Now as a result of this, the latency ballooned and the session timed out. So the architectural assumption was the system will behave. The state is either non-existent or it will be well behaved. In production, the state is going to grow, it can drift, and even it can become stale as well. The cache data gets outdated. Conversation context becomes irrelevant. Session metadata starts accumulating. The fix over here is state lifecycle management. You need policies. You need to define when to evict the old context, when to reset the state, when to re-embed or refetch. You need monitoring. You need to track the context window usage. You need to have the cache size. You need to monitor the session duration and alert when state approaches the saturation. And what I've seen is most teams discover this when users report saying as, hey, it was working and then it became slow. That's when teams started analyzing this, which is halfway through the session if the user reports these kind of scenarios. But the ones who ship successfully, they monitor this state as a service level objective surface itself. Then failure mode 4, tool call contract violation. Well, in the demo, we assume that tools are infallible. That means it will never fail. But in production, tools will lie. You define a tool schema. That means it's a function which takes these parameters and returns this particular structure. The LLM learns the schema. In the demo, it calls the tool correctly each and every time. But in production, the LLM calls it correctly, but the tool's downstream dependency had changed its schema. Now the tool is going to return a structure that the agent does not expect. Then in such scenarios, the agent would break. Worse, what I've seen over here is the LLM sometimes calls tools with parameters that are technically valid but semantically nonsensical. It passes the date in future to the historical query API. Or for the quantities, I've seen it is sending the values as negative. It asks for data that doesn't exist. The tool will return an error in such scenario. But the error message is a 500 character stack trace that the LLM can't parse. So the architecture assumption that people would make is the tool interfaces are always stable and errors are structured. But in production, the tool schemas can drift and error messages are unstructured in nature. So the fix over here is having a tool interface versioning and error normalization. So every tool should return the errors in a consistent format. Error code, human readable message, suggested retry logic, and if the tool's upstream dependency changes, you version the tool interface and update the agent schema. You don't let the schema drift propagate in a silent manner. So the teams that ship successfully would treat the tools as contracts under continuous validation. The ones that fail assume that the contract is static. Now, let's take a look into the failure mode 5, that is latency budget violation. Now, I've seen this happens in day in and day out. In demo, they ignore the latency, but in production, it is latency constrained. In the demo, the agent takes 2 seconds and the developers are happy because the agents are working. It is generating the output for the end user. But no one cares in the development environment or whenever we are doing the demo. But in production, you have a latency budget, maybe 500 milliseconds, maybe 3 seconds. Now, depends on the use case, but the agent doesn't hit it. Why? Because in the demo, it uses only one model call, but in production, it uses three calls. Demo retrieves 5 documents. In production, it retrieves 20 because the query is ambiguous. Demo calls one API And in production, it calls 5 because first three returned partial result and agent is retrying to fill the gap. So the architectural assumption over here is the latency is additive and predictable, but in reality, it's not. Latency is a distribution. Your P50 might be fine, but P95 violates the budget. And when you chain these operation, that is LLM call, retrieval, tool call, and another LLM call, the overall tail will multiply. So the fix over here is you have to treat the latency as the first class constraint. You set the budget per request. You track cumulative latency as the agent runs. If you're approaching the budget, maybe you perform the short circuit. You skip the optional retrieval. You use a faster model. You return the partial result. You don't let the agent blow the budget trying to generate a perfect response. So the teams that ship successfully will be treating the latency like memory in embedded system. It's a hard constraint, not a performance goal. So from this video, this is the clear mental model that I want you to carry forward. The demo to production gap exists because in demos, you would optimize for correctness under ideal scenarios. But in production, it requires robustness under adversarial condition. The five failure modes map to the five architecture layers: input validation, error boundaries, state lifecycle, integration contract, latency constraint. Now, each layer has an assumption that it works in demo and collapses in production. So, the reusable mental model is this: the production ready systems are demo system plus five defensive layers. Most teams build the demo first and add these layers reactively as and when they get the incident. But the ones who ship are the ones who build these layers upfront. So if your agent works well in the notebook, but you are nervous about production, then you assume that all five failure modes are lurking. So instrument them before you actually ship it. So these kind of failures, silent failures, don't come from bad model. They come from the systems that never instrumented to see them. So if you're someone who's looking to build a rack pipeline and getting started with the production rack, having the guardrail and having the observability, having the orchestration and deployment as well, I've put together a course or a program which will walks you through it end to end. So go ahead and check it out. That's at rack.nachiketh.in. We actually dive deep in our bootcamp, but this is a first step for you to get started in the rack pipeline and join our community with community.nachiketh.in. So I've linked everything in the description. And more importantly, guys, build it once, build it right, because demos don't get shipped. System gets shipped to the production. Subscribe to our channel for more such update on Agentic AI, and I'll see you next time.